Hello, welcome back to Grand Prairie Public Library's YouTube channel. My name is Michaela Meyer. Obviously, I work at the library. Today we're going to try something a little bit different. We're going to do a tutorial on how to bake. I mean, technically today we're making no-bake cookies, but I'm still going to call it my baking program. So all you need for this is a stovetop, some type of burner, something to heat up your liquids, a pot, your measuring tools, something to mix with, and of course your ingredients. So today we've got milk, cocoa powder, vanilla, butter or margarine will also work, salt, oats, sugar, and peanut butter. That's all you need today. So just a disclaimer, obviously we're using a stove, so if you shouldn't be using a stove by yourself, don't do it. Go get your parents and get them to help you. Don't do it. Make sure that your guardians know and are preferably supervising you before you start using the kitchen. All right, this is not necessarily a solo activity. If I had kids, I would demo doing it with my kids, but I don't. So you just get me because my dog can't eat chocolate. All right, so first off, we just put a bunch of stuff into the pot and then we're gonna bring it to a boil. So we need 2 cups of white sugar, which we have here. Sugar is really easy to measure. You don't have to be that fancy with it. 1, 2 cups of white sugar. We're gonna want 3 tablespoons of the cocoa powder. Okay, 1 tablespoon. You can actually make this, you can not use the peanut butter. Don't judge me for this. I was living in Ukraine and I couldn't get peanut butter, but Nutella was really easy to find. So I needed something to replace the peanut butter in the batter. So I used Nutella and they were delicious and super chocolatey. It was super yummy, yeah. So that's an option if you feel like being experimental. Mostly I use peanut butter now. I really like peanut butter. So that's our cocoa powder. Then we're gonna add 1/2 cup of butter. Most butter comes with measurements on the side, which makes it very convenient. So I'm using unsalted butter today because I've been trying some more adventurous things and they do require unsalted butter, which means that's all I have in my fridge. If you have salted butter, just use that and then don't add as much salt, but we'll talk about that when we get to the salt. So you can see the markings there. So I need 1/2 cup of butter. The great thing about these cookies is a lot of cookies, you need room temperature butter to make properly. You kind of have to cream the butter. But in this particular instance, you're gonna melt the butter. So it doesn't really matter if you have a frozen block of butter from the freezer. It'll work just fine. So that was our butter, 1/2 cup. And I also want 1/2 cup of milk. So it's good to use a liquid measure when you're measuring liquids. If you don't have a liquid measure, just use the same measuring cups. Life will go on. But they are a little bit different. So if you have a liquid measure, please use your liquid measure. 1/2 cup. All right. So now everything is in the pot and we're gonna move the pot onto the stove, melt everything down together. We're gonna mix it and then we need it to boil for 1 minute. And then we're gonna take it off of the heat and add the rest of the ingredients. So that's why I have a hot pad out so I can bring it back over here and I will of course show you. So my temperature's not too high. You can see here I've got up to an 8 and then a max and it's kind of hovering between a 3 and a 4. I just wanna slowly melt everything down because I'm being cautious. And then I'll crank the heat so that it will boil. Keep your pot handles turned inwards. Don't leave them hanging over the edge, especially if you have dogs or small children. Unfortunately, where the camera is where I normally stand. So I'm gonna be turning it to hold it while I mix. But in general, don't do this. So let's give that a couple more minutes. You can see there's little bubbles, so it's obviously heating up, which is great. Okay, so now we can see it's starting to have a more unstable surface. Some of the bigger bubbles are starting to pop, so it's starting to boil. This is the beginning of what we want. Give it another second and it should get pretty good. This is boiling. Okay, so now it's been a minute and I have to take it off of the heat. So I'm gonna do that. So we're off the heat. Turn the stove off. I didn't show you me doing that, but I did it. I just turned the stove off. That's a very, very important step. So now we're gonna add, if you use salted butter like a sane person, you really just need to like pour some salt on your hand, like a little bit, and put it in. But I didn't use salted butter, so I have to add considerably more salt to make up for that fact. So I added about a teaspoon. I'm gonna add a teaspoon of vanilla. We're gonna add half of a cup of peanut butter. So this peanut butter gets to go in. Get as much of it out as you can. Combine that in with this very warm mixture. And peanut butter will hopefully kind of, and by hopefully I mean it will, kind of melt into that. You want to blend it real good into there. And you also want, then you want your 3 cups of cooking oats. So I'm using rolled oats in mine. I prefer rolled oats. It's a bit far away. I'll bring that closer. So I'm just kind of blending the peanut butter in. You can see there's still some chunks of it. One. Two. 3. There's a lot of oats. This recipe is mostly just eating oats covered in like chocolate sauce and then congealed into a cookie form. Makes it sound super appetizing, doesn't it? So this is when we start to see it thicken like a lot, because obviously the oats are absorbing the liquid. All right, so now we got the dough. It's starting to thicken up. So now I need to get it on a cookie sheet. So pull out your cookie sheet. I really like to use parchment paper. It makes it way easier to clean up. You don't even really need a cookie sheet then. You can leave them on your counter if you want to, but I'm gonna move mine into the fridge because it goes a little bit faster. And you're literally just going to put splotches down like that. Traditionally you want to get 3 in one, but I'm making a big mess. This scoop is a lot bigger than the scoop I normally use. As mentioned before, I actually haven't made these in a while. Okay, so then we're gonna do that with the rest of the dough. So I feel like if I portioned these better to begin with, I definitely would have gotten 2 dozen cookies out of them. I didn't, so I'm getting a little bit less. But that's okay. They're not baking, so them being uneven in size isn't the end of the world. It's actually quite hot right now, so I probably wouldn't touch the dough with your hands. Obviously it was just boiling on the oven, but now it really literally just needs to sit for at least an hour.